If you're gonna put money on it, would you say yes or no, over or under?
I would not bet on you doing it.
Let's rewind a second. That's me, Marc Goone, and I'm going back to low stakes to try to prove to my students, and Brad Owen, that $100 an hour is possible at 5-5. In this episode, I play a wild session at Hustler Casino, fly to Vegas for the inaugural, that's a fun word, inaugural Hungry Horse Poker meetup, and then come back to LA for one more quick session at Hustler. Can I stay on track to make $100 an hour at 5-5?
Down bad, bounce back, boy, I'm different. Watch how I handle my business. Watch with the hands not ticking. Listen, that's that drum kick, boom, coming out of my system.
Let's jump into the hands. For this very first hand, the straddle is on. My rules for the challenge, I'm not gonna push for the straddle ever, but if the straddle is on, obviously I will take it, going to help bump up that win rate when we can get it on. So very first hand here, the low jack opens to $30. We're in the straddle with 8-5 of spades. We're gonna call, going heads up to the flop, which comes queen 6-7 with the queen and 6 of spades. So we flop a combo draw here, open-ended with the flush draw. We're gonna check it over and flow to the pre-flop raiser, hoping to put in a big juicy check raise here, but he checks it back. Now the turn is a 2 of hearts. Let's walk through what happens. If we check on this turn, our opponent is going to start betting all of their kind of showdown value hands that check back the flop, their pocket 8s, their 7x, their pocket 9s. All those hands are going to bet now. And if he did kind of just check back with air, he's also going to bet that hand as well. And if he does decide to check back with like an ace high hand, well, if the turn goes check, check, we could just overbet the river. So we go for the check here, planning to put in a big check raise. He goes 40. We check raise pretty big here, 6x to 240, planning just to set up a jam on the river. But he is going to call. And now the river is the queen of hearts, bringing in the back door. I'm not a fan of giving up with 8 high, but if there is a spot to give up with 8 high, it is this spot right here. At this point, we just think he just has hearts a lot of the time. Probably not going to call check raise on the turn with a hand like pocket 9s, especially when we go 6x. So this just looks like a backdoor flush a lot to me. We check it over, giving up, and he actually moves all in. We snap fold, and we move on to the next hand. Next hand here, and we are playing a double board PLO bomb pot. Once again, let me know what you guys think of these hands. If you think they're just too confusing, if you don't care, I'll leave them out. But I thought this one was a pretty interesting hand, so I left it in here. Got double suited pocket aces to the hearts and the diamonds, so pretty good hand. Flop comes 4 deuce ace on top, so we flop top set, and the bottom board deuce king 9 with a couple of hearts, so we flop the nut flush draw on one board and top set on the other board, and we are on the button. It checks all the way around to us with 175 in the pot. We bet 150 here. The blinds are going to get out of the way, and you see directly across the table from us, +1 is going to call. We're going to a turn. The top board is a 4 of clubs. So now we've got top boat on board number 1. And on the second board, it is a 10 of diamonds. So we just still have basically an overpair and a nut flush draw on board number 2. Checks over to us. Pot is 475. This guy's got just about 900 back. So we're just going to apply pressure right here. We bet pot here on this turn, go 475. He immediately moves in for 900. We snap call, and the river is going to be a 6 of clubs up top and a 9 of clubs on the bottom board. So on the top board, we still have aces full, and the bottom board, we just have an overpair. But somehow we are good on both boards. He actually flopped a wheel straight on top, and he had a 5 high flush draw on the bottom. So we were just in really, really, really good shape here overall. All right, this next hand, playing with a very well-known retired former athlete who is going to be our nemesis in quite a few hands today. The straddle is on. He limps from +1, and we open up 9-7 of spades to 50 from the hijack here. It's going to fold back around to him, and he is going to call. And at this point, I ask him,
What do you have?
2 cards.
Oh, I have 9-7 of spades.
Oh shit. Why did you say that?
I don't know.
Flop comes 5-8-7, and as is my MO, single raise pots in position, I'm just going to range bet. I try to choose the size where they're going to raise off their strong shit and call with their weak shit, usually around half pot. So I go 50 here, and he is going to call. We go to the turn, which is an offsuit deuce, the blankest of blankest, most innocuous turns. He checks. We've got some showdown value here. I think our hand is a little bit too thin to bet. Prefer to use it as a bluff catcher, and we just check back. Go to the river, which is another another deuce now, pairing the board, and now he comes out and bets 150. Live players just put their bluffs in this 40% to 60% sizing all the time, and when they size up over 2/3 pot, they just tend to have it. I think I kind of out-level myself. I lean into the heuristics too hard, the heuristics that when players choose this 2/3 or 3/4 pot size bet on the river, that they're just under bluffing. But you know what? I always say this is my favorite line in all of live poker. C-bet the flop, check back with showdown value, and then bluff catch the river, and I somehow just talk myself out of not putting in a very easy call on a very clean river for us after we've already told him our hand. This is just a pretty bad fold. So I show, and he actually shows king 10 off. So he bluffed me good. Let's try to get him back. All right, next hand here, the straddle is still on. We open up red pocket kings from under the gun to $35 here. Using a little bit smaller size because the table had seemed to tighten up with the straddle on. Sometimes happens. We're gonna get called here by +1, and the big blind, our nemesis here from the previous hand, is going to come along as well. Flop comes 4, queen, 3, rainbow, and I'm kind of torn here when it checks over to us between betting and checking. I generally just check my entire range out of position, but I think multi-way here, probably just going with a bet is probably a higher EV option because players in position aren't really going to stab nearly as much when the pot is 3 ways. So I think a little bit of a blunder from myself here. Now the turn is a king of spades, and when it checks over to me, I think it's just very unlikely that either of these players has a very strong hand. We of course have the nuts here. I think a queen would just come out and bet on the flop from +1, and the big blind here could have a queen, but he's not going to call much here. So I go very small, and now surprisingly in position raises us to $90. It feels like, hey, I don't want to face another bet, so I'm going to put in a little click raise here so I don't have to face another bet. And I think this guy just may have the last king in the deck, probably just has a hand like king jack or something like that, and I don't think this guy is folding if we just click this back. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna click this to 250. He snap moves all in, and of course we call it off with the nuts, and the river is going to come a queen. We show pocket kings, of course we are good, and he has 3s. He actually flopped a set here and decided to slow play it, and we get real lucky with a king on the turn and end up stacking this player in this hand. All right, next hand here, and this is another one against our nemesis, former professional athlete friend. We're in the straddle here. We have jack 10 of spades. Under the gun is going to limp, and +1 is going to make it $45. Now the small blind is going to call, and normally I would consider squeezing here with a suited Broadway, but +1's been playing very conservatively pre-flop. He's been limping quite a bit, so when he ISOs to this big size over a limp, and this is gonna be a strong hand, we're only about 800, 900 effective with +1. I think squeezing this hand would be a little bit of a punt, and under the gun is going to come along as well. So we are going 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to the flop, which comes jack 7, 4 with a couple of diamonds, checks over to us. We're going to check and flow over to the pre-flop raiser, who is going to check it back. Turn is now an offsuit 8. Once again, checks over to us, and at this point, we're going to start betting for some value. I think it's very unlikely that either small blind or the pre-flop raiser has a jack here, so we probably have the best hand, and I just don't think a hand like 8x or pocket 9s or 7x is going to fold to 1 bet at this point. So we put in a pretty chunky bet here, 150 into 180, and now our nemesis in the small blind calls. He only started this hand about 345 effective, so after calling this bet, he's only got about 150 behind. This was not the situation we were expecting to be in. Both of the players behind us in position who folded were deeper. Now the river is a 7 of diamonds, bringing in the front door flush draw, and now he donks for 150 all in. This is just not a bluff, right? This is just going to be a flush or a 7 at near 100% frequency, and I know he showed us a bluff before. I think it makes it even more unlikely that he's bluffing here. Once a player shows you they're bluffing, they show you that bluff for a reason because they want you to give them action next time. So I am going to make a disciplined fold here, even though I'm getting a pretty good price. All right, next hand here, +1 opens for 20. We've got ace 10 of spades here in the small blind. Hijack cutoff and button call. And at this point, this is a slam dunk squeeze. We are going to go 160 here. With all that dead money in there, we've got a very nice hand. And now something interesting happens, which is a little bit annoying. The big blind, who is a short stack and the only player who has yet to act so far, he jams for 360. This was not part of the plan here when we squoze, when we squeezed, when we squeezled. Yeah, you know. We've got 160 in there. It's only 200 more to call. We kind of are priced in to call here with any two. So we do call. And we go to a flop. That is not great for us. Please give us an ace dealer. That's not gonna help. And he has pocket fives. And sometimes people just do some spazzy boy things. All right, next hand here, the straddle is back on for this one. And I can't help myself. I can't get away from opening these crappy offsuit broadways from early position in games where I'm just not getting 3-bet. Is it winning? Still not really sure, probably not. I can't help it, guys. So I go 40 under the gun. The low jack, small blind, and big blind are going to call. And the flop here comes queen, queen, 7. So we flop trips here. Obviously a pretty good flop for us. In this hand, we are actually in position to 2 players, the small blind and the big blind, and only out of position to 1, the low jack. So I think this flop is just very unlikely to get stabbed by the low jack. This is a spot where I'm probably just going to be betting off a lot of my good hands and strong draws here. Multi-way, I just don't want the to check through. So I go 50, just under 1/3 pot into 160, and the low jack, who is next to act, is going to call. The small blind and the big blind are going to get out of the way. This guy is a player who has been quite active so far. Definitely a guy who's in there to mix it up. Turn is a 7 of clubs, and at this point I decide to check it over. I think it's just very likely here that he's got a lot of draws, a lot of flush draws, so I check it over. He bets $50. I don't really see a point to raise here. We've got this board locked down. I go ahead and call. River is now an ace of hearts, bringing in the front door draw, and I have seen this guy bet actually on a double paired board where he made the flush on the river, so I actually check it over again. Now he goes 55 here. I think my story is just not going to be all that believable to him if we check raise. I don't want to go all in. He's only got about 500 back. I think he's probably just going to fold a flush if we go all in, but I do decide to get a little bit greedy here and go for the check raise, just targeting a hand like a king high flush or a jack high flush or something like that. I think he's probably just not going to believe our story when we bet small on the flop, check the turn, and then check raise the river. So I go 300. He actually hems and haws and thinks about it. He finally puts in the call, and he has king queen. So maybe my read is off here that this guy would call with a flush, maybe a little bit too thin. Actually was ahead of us on the flop, and we end up chopping this one up.
All right, we're here with the legendary Brad Owen. Hello.
How's it going, Mark?
Very gently. Okay, so trying to make $100 an hour at 5-5. Do you think $100 an hour, 20 big blinds an hour is possible in a 1,000 cap 5-5 game?
Under optimal conditions, maybe.
Over a big sample size.
Sorry, that was a rounder's quote. Over a big sample size, I think it's going to be really, really tough. Also, you know, for someone like you who's used to playing bigger, I think you're going to have to overcome just some tough mindset obstacles of not getting too bored. And but yeah, I think if you put your mind to it, you would be the one that could do it.
If you were going to put money on it, would you say yes or no, over or under?
I would not bet on you doing it. So, yeah, I think
You heard it here, the biggest hater of Brad Owen.
Sorry.
I just think it's so tough.
Could I just step in because
Nope, you
Mark
can't.
and I just
you
met for the
can't.
first time.
We've got Spraggy here.
Mark and I just met for the first time, and we were going to do similar sort of questions. Can Mark win at 5-5? And I said, before we recorded, I said, if anyone can, you can, Mark. And then Brad's just stolen my line. So now I have nothing else to say, but other
Honestly,
than
wasn't
we
thinking
we
about
believe
it.
in you.
Wasn't
Yeah,
We believe in you, Brad.
I heard it off camera. He's like, "That's a great piece. That's a great piece." And then he's coming here and he's taking it from me.
You said we believe in you. Don't speak for Brad because he said it.
Sorry,
I
that's
just
true.
wouldn't
believe.
bet. I wouldn't bet. I wouldn't take your side in a bet if I had to. I don't think that you can't do it. I just think I think it's more likely you can't.
It's a diplomatic hedge is what we call it.
Exactly.
All right, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
It's a thumbs up from me.
Thumbs up from Spraggy.
Yeah, you got it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, next hand here, and this is round 3 against our nemesis. He's gotten the best of us twice so far. Under the gun is going to limp. Our nemesis makes it 50 from +1. He's been relatively passive pre-flop, so this is just going to be pretty good hands. We look down at JJ Reddix on the button. We make it 150. Under the gun's going to get out of the way, and +1 is going to call. Heads up to the flop, 8-6-3 rainbow. He checks it over. In 3-bet pots, I'm just going to be range betting. I choose a smaller size in 3-bet pots than I do in single raise pots because the absolute size of the pot is bigger. Still want to choose a size where they raise off their strong shit, call with their weak shit. Usually about 1/3 in 3-bet pots is my default. I go 100 here. He's going to put in the call. Turn is a queen of diamonds, and he checks it over. The sizing I chose in game was 250 here. I'm not sure that's the best size. I was trying to target hands like pocket 9s, pocket 10s. I think those hands, though, would probably call a little bit bigger size, maybe 350 or 400, maybe results oriented, but this is why I don't love this size. But finally, we win a hand against our nemesis, and we do scoop in the pot, even though I believe I played it quite poorly. All right, next hand here, +1 hijack and cutoff limp. We check in the small blind with queen 7 offsuit, big blind checks as well. Flop comes ace-7-3. We have middle pair here. It checks over to the hijack, who goes 15. Could probably just find a fold right now, and this guy bets 5 ways on the flop on an ace high board. I think if the cutoff stabbed here, we'd have a pretty easy call, but I'm not sure I love this one. I think in order, I probably prefer check raise, then fold, then call. So I think I chose the worst option. But anyway, we call. Turn is a 3 of clubs. We check it over, and now he goes 45. Feel like I can get the ace-x to fold at a pretty high frequency. And so I decide to go for the big boy check raise, which I don't love the big boy check raise here. Actually, I'm not a fan of a lot of the hands I played this session now, looking back at this. I want the ace-x to call the turn and then fold the river. So I think I probably got to choose a smaller check raise size here. Maybe 150, 160. Make sure he calls with a hand like ace-8 or something like that limped along pre-flop. But I go 275 here. He tanks and tanks and tanks and finally calls. And at this point, I realize my error in that ace-x is not calling this check raise on the turn. And at this point, I am probably up against a very strong hand after he bets on the flop into 4 other people and now calls this big check raise here on the turn. And so the river comes a 6. At this point on the river, after he calls that big check raise on the turn, I just think I no longer have a profitable bluff here because all the ace-x folds on the turn. If I could take this one back, I'd probably just check raise the flop, barrel the turn small, and then put in the big boy overbet bluff on the river. But getting to this river, I just think he's gonna have a lot of boats and trips here. So I decide just to give this one up. Not a fan of giving up usually, but I think we're just gonna run into a brick wall here. So I check. He actually checks it back and says, I don't know what you could have here. We show, and he has 3-4 of spades. So he does have trips. And I think I am glad that I gave this one up on the river. Would not expect recreational players to fold trips here in this spot. All right, next hand here. This one goes off the rails. Get ready for a wild ride. Here we go. We are playing this hand against a really nice guy from Colombia. Didn't speak any English, but his girlfriend was behind him and she was helping translate. But he was just a very friendly guy who was in a great mood the entire time. Really fun to play with. So it folds around to us on the button. We've got king 6, and with a couple of recreational players, including this guy in the blinds, we're just going to be opening 100% of the hands here, especially when both blinds are deep. I think we can just get away with this. We're gonna have a big skill edge post flop, just gonna be able to win hands quite a bit. And only the small blind is going to call. So we're going heads up to a flop here. Comes 7-4 deuce. He checks it over to us. So I go $30 here, and he clicks it to 60. So a min raise here. And usually when players min raise, this is just going to be hands like top pair trying to find out where they are at. So I'm going to let top pair know exactly where it's at. Just immediately tell this guy, listen, your top pair is no good, sir. He started this hand off about 1380 effective, so we are very deep. So I'm gonna put in the bet 3-bet here with a little bit of a live read. So I make it 205. He is going to put in the the call here. And we are going to a turn, which is an offsuit 5. He checks it over, and at this point, I want to choose a size where I can still have that big, chunky, scary overbet behind on the river. So I'm actually going to size down here. I go 200. I want to make sure 7x doesn't fold. He is going to put in a very quick call. If he had a set, he would at least think about raising here. He would at least think for a second before snap calling. The river now is a 3, and look at that sweet baby there. We actually bank a runner straight. So now the plan changes. I was going to jam this river. We've got about 950 behind. We somehow just backed into a value hand. I want to size down. I want to go smaller because I want to entice him to call with a hand like 7-8. And you see here on the river when I'm reaching for chips, he's got his chips out already like hovering over the line like he's gonna call. This is a sign of weakness. If you see players doing this, it's because they don't want you to bet big. So this means you should probably bet smaller if you are trying to get called, and you should probably bet even bigger if you were trying to bluff. So I go 500 here. Maybe I actually should have gone a little smaller, maybe like 400 or even 350, because that just means he doesn't want to call. All right, so someone calls the clock on him. The floor comes over, and he actually flips over his cards. He shows 10-7 of hearts, so my read was right that he just had kind of a top pair hand here. And the floor kind of makes this asinine ruling that when a player flips over their cards, that they only have 10 seconds to act. And obviously, I can't say anything. I want him to call. The floor is telling him in English. His girlfriend doesn't even have time to translate to him in Spanish. Remember, this guy doesn't speak English, so he has no idea what's going on. The floor man doesn't even give him a full minute. He's just counting down from 10 and announces that his hand is dead. So I got a little bit screwed. We need Nikki on the floor at all times here at Hustler to keep things in order, but we do end up nevertheless winning the pot, although not winning as much as we would have liked. All right, next hand here. Straddle is on for this hand. Under the gun limps. We make it 50 in the cutoff with ace queen off, and under the gun calls. Flop comes 10 queen deuce with a couple of spades. You guys know the drill. I'm gonna go just about half pot here. Actually a little bit smaller than half pot, just because with the straddle on and the big ISO size pre, I think the pot's getting a little bit bigger than usual in this 5-5 game. So I actually go 50 into 115, and now this player quickly check raises to 150. We call, we go to a turn which is a 3, and now he checks it over. And I think this is an interesting decision point here on this turn. We started this hand just about 1.1k effective. I think if he did check raise with some type of bullshit like air, just trying to push me off the hand here, those hands are just done with it. They are just giving up. But if he did have a flush draw here, I don't think those hands are folding even to a big size. If he's checking here with a hand like queen king or queen jack that happened to limp, I don't think those hands are folding to a big size. I want to just get value from his draws that decide to slow down and check, and value from his queen x hands. So I go big here. I go 400, but obviously he just has air because he snap folds, and we take it down. All right, next hand here, and I think this is just a great example of choosing your value size to target exactly what they have, rather than just betting a big size because you have a good hand. Under the gun limps, we make it 35. The straddle's off. We make it 35 in a hijack with king, queen off, and under the gun is going to call. We're going to a flop, which comes 8-4-9 with a couple of hearts. He checks it over. We go half pot. He calls. Turn is now a king of diamonds. Board is super, super wet. I don't think draws are really folding here for a big size, but also when a king comes on the turn, what hand do recreational players put you on when you ISO big pre-flop and then c-bet the flop and then barrel the turn? Well, they put you on ace king. I want to choose a size here where he can still get a little bit sticky with a hand like 9x or 8x, and also of course that all of the draws are going to come along as well. So I go 125, and I think that maybe accomplishes both the goals. He's going to call. River is now an offsuit 7, and he checks it over to us. And I think on this river, this is a mistake I used to make. Hey, I've got top pair. All the draws bricked. Let's bet big here. No, let's think, what does he have? We're targeting a hand like 8x or 9x, right? If he had a draw, he's not gonna call anything. I decided to go very, very small. I go 100 into 375, targeting a hand like 8x or 9x. It's gonna get a little bit non-believing. He begrudgingly puts in the call. We show and we are good. I feel pretty good about this one, just sizing for what I'm targeting rather than just betting big because I have good hand. All right, next hand here. Cutoff is going to make it 20. Button calls, and we've got 9s in the small blind. Time to squeeze. We have squozen. We are the squeezled ones. We make it 125. The cutoff, the original opener, is going to call. The button gets out of the way. Flop comes 4, 3, deuce. I check here, and unfortunately, he actually checks it back. We go to a turn, which is the beautiful 9 of hearts. I decide to check. I don't love checking. Once he checks back the flop, he probably just doesn't have a lot of pairs. Probably just gonna be a lot of ace high. I go for the check here, getting greedy, going for the check raise, but I think I should just bet this turn small. Turn goes check, check. We go to a river, which is a 6 of hearts. And at this point, I've got to target the ace highs, right? I've got to target the non-believing ace highs. I go 200 here. I don't want to go too big. I want to make sure I get called by like ace king or ace queen. He calls pretty quickly. We show our hand and we are good. So I think I probably could have eked out 2 streets here if I just would have gone with a small bet on the turn and then a small bet on the river. But nevertheless, we get paid from a pretty chunky size bet on the river. All right, next hand here, just the old patented triple barrel multi-way with 5 high. So +1 is going to limp, cutoff limps. We over limp on the button with 5 deuce of diamonds, the small blind and big blind check. Flop comes 7 ace 9 with the 7 and 9 of diamonds. And multi-way, I'm gonna be much more careful about betting. But when it checks all the way around to us in position here, I think most players would probably have just taken a stab on this board if they did have a good hand. I go $10 here. I would be a little bit more concerned if the small blind or big blind called next to act, but they get out of the way. +1 gets out of the way. And now the cutoff, who is last to act, he's going to come along for the ride. The turn is an ace and he checks it over. At this point, I think it's pretty unlikely that he has an ace. I want to choose a size where a hand like 9x or 7x is going to call on the turn, and then we can get that hand to fold on the river. So I go 30 here. He's going to put in the quick call. River is an offsuit king, and he checks it over. And again, at this point, we're just pretty sure he's got a hand like 7x, 9x, maybe a busted straight draw. We just go for the size that we think folds 9x all the time here. We go 115 into 105. He very quickly folds, and we get the triple barrel through with 5 high. All right, next hand here, big boy exploit alert. So +1 makes it 25. He's been opening relatively wide, just all his offsuit broadways. Want to isolate, play pots heads up in position against recreational players. They're just not going to 4-bet enough. They're not going to blow me off my equity. They're going to play very predictably post-flop. So I go for the light 3-bet here with king 5 of diamonds. Maybe a little bit too light. We go for the 3-bet. He's going to call. Flop comes 9, 8, 7. We don't flop much here, but a gut shot. He checks it over. In 3-bet pots, I'm usually going to go just about 1/3 pot on the flop with my entire range, force them to raise off their strong shit, call with their weak shit. Usually that size will accomplish exactly that. So we go $60. He calls. Turn is now a 6. So we actually make the bottom end of the straight, but now he comes out and donks for 300 into 265. Let's go through the bluff catching checklist. Could he be doing this with worse for value? Nah, probably not. He's not gonna come out and donk with 2 pair or a set here. Did we give him rope? No, we 3-bet pre-flop, we bet the flop. We haven't given him rope at any stage so far. So this is just going to be a 10 almost all the time. And in this particular spot, we are pretty much drawing dead. And I actually make what I consider to be just a standard laydown with the bottom end of the straight. All right, quick session recap. Ended up about 600 and some change. Played about 8.5 hours tonight. Started the session off really well, was up over 2,000 in probably the first hour, and just kind of really didn't have anything go my way for like the last 6 or 7 hours of the session. We are on pace. This is possible. I really do think it is possible. We will see you soon. All right, so walking into my room right now, apparently they upgraded my room. Shit like this never happens to me. Look at this place, look at it. What? There's a bath. There's a bath just sitting in the middle of the room here.
I just unlocked it, yeah. Shotgun shorty, the bitch an accomplice, yeah. They give me the bag, you think it's a hostage, yeah. All white foreign, I'm whipping a Doncic, ooh. Been locked in, been doing my thing, acting like y'all don't know what I mean, huh? Y'all act way too Hollywood, y'all too cool, that was never my scene, yeah. Betting on me and my team, I ain't make no money till 2019, yeah. They know when it light green, I'ma pull a Mike Breen, yeah. I'ma go out with a bang, running with my government name. Y'all got way more plays, cool, I got more in my bank. No budget on my chain, still unsigned, I'ma let that hang. Bust that down, I'ma go insane. In my city, I'm a
All right, after getting back from Las Vegas and the Hungry Horse and Crush Life Poker meetups, jumping into another session here at Hustler. We're playing 5-5. We have Ace King of Clubs under the gun. We open it up to $20. The table's been playing relatively tight. There are a couple short stacks, so usually I'm opening much bigger, but at a table with these dynamics, I do just go for the 4x open size. The cutoff calls, and now the button goes to 120. This is a really big 3-bet size, and the fact that I had not seen him 3-bet so far. So I'm just going to call with Ace King of Clubs here. We go to a flop which covers 10 Jack 5 with the Jack and 5 of clubs. So we flop a combo draw, we check it over, and now he quickly bets 225 into 265. Now you may be thinking, well, shouldn't we be check raising here? We have a combo draw. We probably are just flipping against all of his overpairs. And yes, that is true, but I just think we just have zero fold equity here. Like, this is just aces, kings, and queens all day. We started the hand about 1060 effective, so I'm actually just going to call here, and we are going to go to a turn, and hopefully he's going to make a mistake somewhere along the way. The turn is a deuce of diamonds, and I check it over. And at this point, we get some bad news because he goes all in for 715. Listen, I am not the best at poker math, but I believe when someone makes a pot-sized bet, we need to be good exactly 33% of the time, and against a range of queens, kings, and aces, we do have just over 33% equity. So I'm begrudgingly going to put in a call here, even if it is minus EV by a percentage or two. The benefits of getting deep in this game probably just outweigh punting off 1 to 2% EV here, but we call. We are going to a river, which unfortunately for us is an offsuit 7. And of course he turns over red pocket aces, and we get stacked early on in the session. Next hand here, I'm actually really proud of something I did in this hand. I don't say that much, but I'll give myself props for this one because it ended up working out. So we're playing 5-5. The button opens to $30. And the button here only starts the hand with about 220 effective. We look down at ace queen of hearts, and I want to 3-bet to a size here, where just in case, if the big blind does cold call, that the action gets reopened if the button jams. So I actually go for a smaller 3-bet here. I go to 110, half of the button stack. Obviously, we're just putting the money in here. We're just never folding, but I think I like going to 110 here rather than just going to like 200 or something like that, because now look at this. The big blind's going to cold call, the button is going to jam for 220, and now the action is back open, which is really, really nice for us with the dead money from the big blind here. And we start this hand about 900 or so effective with the big blind. So at this point, when he cold calls, we just know he's capped. He's probably not gonna ever have a hand like aces or kings. So he's probably got a lot of hands like 10s, jacks, 9s, queens, suited Broadway, stuff like that. And if we can get that stuff to fold, that's really, really nice for us. So we are going to put in all of the money here, and the big blind begrudgingly gets out of the way and says he has queens. Now the button asks,
Pocket aces?
Yes.
That's good.
and we are off to a flop with my pretend pocket aces. Deuce 5-8. Help us, dealer, please. Turn is a 7. Give us an ace one time. No, it's a 5. We flip over our pretend pocket aces, and we are good. And the big blind is muttering under his breath, and I'm pretty sure he wants to murder me.
All right, we're here with Bart Hansen. Hello.
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 Hi.
You're the expert on this, maybe the foremost expert in all of America, not in Europe for sure. Do you believe that $100 an hour can be made at a 5-5 1,000 cap game?
It is definitely going to be a challenge, I will say. I do know a close friend of mine that now would admit that he's probably not the best poker player in the world, that used to make 75 not too long ago. So if you're talking about Marc Goone, it might be possible. I don't know how many hours you're talking about, but
I'm gonna do as many hours until I feel like
you get to 100, and then that's it.
We're gonna try to do 300 to 500.
If there's anybody that could do it, you're probably one of the few guys that could do it. But it's definitely going to be hard. It's definitely going to be hard.
If you were gonna put money on it, what side would you bet?
I think you are probably a plus 140 dog to do it. Plus 140 dog. You know?
He's a non-believer.
I know. No, it's not a non-believer. I mean, it's, you know, an open-ended straight flush draw against the set. But, I mean, I wish you well, for sure.
I'll take those odds. Thanks. Thanks, Bart.
All right, thanks.
Next hand here, just another example of why fighting so hard for every pot can really be a boost to your win rate. The $10 straddle is on in this hand. We open to $50 in a small blind with queen jack off. Only the straddle calls. Flop comes ace 6-9 with a couple of spades, and as I like to do out of position, I'm just checking my entire range. So we check, he checks it back. Turn is now an ace, and at this point, I'm gonna start putting in a pretty big bet. I think hands like 6x or 9x or pocket eights or something like that are just not folding. I actually go 175 here, and I think that's a little bit of a miscalculation on my part, just not taking into account that the straddle is on and the game's playing a little bit bigger than usual. He's hemming and hawing and talking about the possible hands I could have, so listen in.
No, don't fold. Ah, shit.
You see, I'm actually telling him not to fold here. I'm just like, don't fold. What's wrong with me? Anyway, not usually a fan of showing bluffs, but we do it one time for the vlog, and we take this one down. Next hand here, big pot alert. The cutoff actually posts a dead blind here, so there's some dead money in the middle. So we open it up to $35, straight 5-5, in the low jack with queen jack of spades. The hijack is going to call, and the big blind is going to come along as well. Flop comes 4-4, king rainbow with 1 spade. So we've got kind of 3 to a backdoor straight, 3 to a backdoor flush. Could go either way here. With only 1 player in position behind us, I'm not checking range because I feel like this flop is just unlikely to get stabbed, particularly because it's so static. But I elect to check here. We go to a turn, which is a beautiful 9 of spades. So now we've got a straight draw and a flush draw. When the big blind checks it over to us, we're going to start betting here, just applying pressure to showdown value hands. So I'm going to choose a pretty big size. I believe that the hijack would have just stabbed on this flop if he had a king, and the big blind would have come out and just bet the turn if he had a king. So I'm gonna go pretty big here. I go 110 into 115. Hijack gets out of the way, and now the big blind is going to check raise to 300, leaving himself about 425 behind. And we just got a ton of outs here. When somebody check raises the turn here, they have trips literally 100% of the time. This is never a bluff. If this is a bluff, I will kiss every single person who watches this video on the lips. It is not a bluff. It's always a 4. But we've got quite a few outs here, a 10 or any spade. So we are going to call in position, just figuring that this guy is never folding trips on the river with this much money behind. River is the beautiful 5 of spades. He checks it over to us. We go all in for his remaining $425. He tanks and tanks and tanks. And finally, he puts in the call, and we win our first nice pot of the day. Next hand here, $10 straddle is on. We raise to 35 in the hijack with ace-9 of clubs. The cutoff and the straddle call. Flop comes 10-7-6 with a couple of clubs. So we flop a combo draw here, straight draw and a flush draw. And when the straddle checks, I think we have a pretty close decision between either checking and betting here. With just 1 player behind us, they're gonna stab less when the flop is multi-way. So I'm actually just gonna be betting a lot of my good hands and strong draws here. We go $40. The cutoff, who is next to act, now calls, and the straddle gets out of the way. Now the cutoff only started this hand about 360 effective. The turn now is an 8 of clubs, giving us the nuts here. What I like to do when they are uncapped is choose a small size again. It's going to incentivize him to raise off with his worst flushes, but also continue with a ton of weak shit that's just drawing dead. So he's gonna put in the call. River's a 4 of diamonds, and at this point, pot's 310. He's only got about 225 behind. So at this point, I'm just going to announce
700. I bet 700. That means you can't call.
Unfortunately, he folds, but we do rake in a small pot. Moving on to the next one, big pot alert. 5-5-10, the straddle is on. The hijack limps, we complete in the small blind with 3-6 of hearts. The big blind completes as well, and the straddle checks. Flop comes queen 4-5 with a couple of hearts. We check, the big blind checks, the straddle checks, and now the hijack stabs 25. At this point, I'm gonna go for the big boy check raise size. I think if he's got a queen, if he has a heart draw, if he has a straight draw, none of those hands are folding. And if he's just stabbing with bullshit, he's going to fold to any size. We started off about 850 effective. And if I go for this big check raise size here, I'm just going to have a nice overbet behind on the turn, which I can jam the turn for max fold equity. And now the hijack is going to jam for $840. We snap call. That does not help. A 10 of clubs and then a king of clubs on the river. No good. He shows 5-4 offsuit for bottom 2 pair. We double this guy up. Wonderful. Just not getting there with our combo draws so far today. Next hand here. This is super interesting 4-bet pot. Under the gun limps. Low jack makes it $30, and now the hijack, who is a for-profit player, but on the tighter side for sure, makes it 100. We look down at ace queen of hearts here on the button, and I don't like to play cold calls to 3-bets. I'm generally just playing 4-bet or fold. I think ace queen is ahead of enough of her 3-bet range to have a profitable 4-bet here. This is probably the bottom of my range here though, because this configuration when under the gun limps, low jack ISOs, and hijack 3-bets is going to be very, very tight, particularly from a tight player. But I'm going to put in the cold 4-bet. We start this hand about 1.5k effective. I go very, very small here, 220. I'm just going 2.2 to 2.3x in position. I'd go a little bit bigger out of position. She is going to think about it and going to call. Flop here comes 7 deuce ace. So we flop top pair. Pot is 460. And now I want to choose a size on this flop that's going to force hands like pocket queens and pocket kings and pocket jacks to continue to 1-bet. I'm actually going to go just over 10% pot here. I go $50 into 460. What this does is it forces a lot of underpairs to the ace to continue at least one time. She is going to call. The turn now is a 3. We're not really getting value from hands like queens or kings here from a thinking player on this turn, so we just check it back. River is a 10, and when she checks it over, I'm a little bit torn, trying to figure out if I can get value specifically from hands like kings and queens here, but I think it's a little bit too thin. And I think if we do bet here, we're mostly just going to get called by hands like ace king, and hands like kings or queens are going to fold, even if we go very, very small here for like $75 or $100. So I elect just to check this one back. Again, against a fish here, I would just always be betting on this river, but we check it back. She shows pocket kings, and we are good with ace queen. Just how out of line can you get at low stakes poker? Well, I'm about to show you. Cutoff opens to 20. The button calls. We call in the big blind with 8-6 of spades, not squeezing a hand like this. When one player opens and one player calls, you just want to choose your good hands, better hands, and best hands, and this hand does not fall into any of those categories, but good enough to call. We go to a flop, which comes 7, 10, ace with a couple of hearts. So we flop a gutter and a backdoor spade draw. Not really much going on for us, but the flop does check through. Turn is now a 10 of hearts. We check it over to the cutoff, who bets 15 into 60 here, and now the button is going to fold. A lot of his range here is just going to be 10x. Now, this is a thinking player, a thinking recreational player. I would not try this against a fish or a whale almost ever, but we do start this hand deep at about 1.5k effective, and I think his range when he bets his turn is just going to be trip 10s. And the thing about trip 10s on this turn is that we can have a flush all the time. We can just have all the flushes. So I'm gonna put in the big boy raise here. He bets 15. I check raise to 130, and he's going to put in the call. River now is a 3, and at this point, I just need to choose the size that gets a 10 to fold all the time. And if he does have a flush here, well, I'm not sure I'm getting that hand to fold ever. And if we do run into a hand like pocket aces occasionally that checked back the flop, well, we don't want to just be inefficient against hands that are just the nuts. So he can still have a sliver of the nuts here, so we need to be cognizant of that. We can't just put all the money in here because we can run into a brick wall occasionally. So pot being 320, I'm just going to choose a size where I think I can get a 10 to fold all the time. I go 530 into 320 here. At this point, he motions like he's about to fold, and I say, no! And now the European player to the left of me says,
I slapped it. What the fuck?
Well, now I can't help but show. Next hand here, wondering if I went a little bit too thin. The low jack limps, the high jack limps, and we make it 45 here in the small blind with JJ Reddix. Both players call. We're going 3 ways to a flop when we are out of position to multiple players. My MO, just checking my entire range here. So flop is 8-8-4. We check. The low jack checks, and now the high jack goes 135 into 135. So he pots it here. I think our hand is obviously too strong to fold, but not good enough to check raise. So we are going to call. Low jack gets out of the way. Turn now is a 5, bringing him back to our clubs. We check, and he checks it back, which we love to see. We are just pretty confident now we have the best hand and think he's probably just gonna have hands here like 6s, 7s, 9s. Now the river is the 4 of clubs, and the board is double paired. And at this point, we just want to choose a size that pocket 7s or something like that are never folding. So with pot being 405, I actually elect to go 300. Maybe this is a little bit too greedy because he tanks for a few seconds and doesn't snap call, but then he finally does call and he has 4 deuce. So he actually tanked on this river with a full house. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's too thin. But then again, I doubt he's ever folding. I'm not sure he folds 7s or 6s to this size either. So maybe it's too thin. Maybe it's not. I'm not really sure. But this guy did seem like a little bit of scared money. So unfortunately, we get value owned and lose the pot. All right, next hand here. Double board PLO bomb pot alert. We're on the button, which is always nice. $25 ante here. 6 players in, so pot is 150. We've got pocket 3s with queen 10 to go along with it. And board 1 comes 3 jack queens, so we flop bottom set. Board 2 is 8-10 deuce, so we actually flop top pair on one board, bottom set on the other. Checks all the way around to us on the button. We pot it for 150, and only the under the gun player with the tattoo sleeves over there is going to call. The turn is a 4 up top on the board where we have a set of 3s, and on the bottom board it is a 6, so we've still got bottom set and top pair. He checks it over. We are going to pot again at this point. We go 450. He calls. Now on the river, the top board is a king, which we don't like to see. Brings in some straights up there, and the bottom board, not the worst card, is a deuce. Pairing bottom cards, so we still have top pair on the bottom board. He donks all in for 350, and at this point, I'm just praying that we don't get scooped here on this river, that he doesn't have something like a deuce and a straight. But it's only 350, and the pot is 1350, so I sigh and flick in the call. And he has king 4 ace 3, so we scoop. Actually, on the board, we have a set. He has 2 pair. And on the other board, he just has a pair of 3s. So I don't know what's going on. Again, I will advise you guys, if you can breathe out of your nose, play out of these double board bomb pot games, you are just printing money. If you see a reg sitting out the double board PLO bomb pot games, you can be assured that they suck at poker. All right, final hand of session 1 here. We open it up to $30 in middle position with Jack 10 off. The table at this point has been very, very sticky, just playing a lot more hands, not liking to fold a lot pre-flop, but also just not really 3-betting much. So we go 30 in middle position. The button and the small blind calls. Flop comes 6-8-3 with a couple of diamonds. We don't really have anything going on. So when the small blind checks, we check it over to the button who checks it back. Turn is a 4. And once again, this turn checks through. Now the river is a 9. And when the small blind checks it over to us, pot being $90, I am going to choose the size here that I think gets hands like 4x or 6x to fold all the time. So I go 140. Now the small blind is tanking, thinking about it, and here I go again. I can't help myself.
I river.
You did it.
Hey, show you enough line.
Why?
Come on.
Well, no. Okay, fine. I rivered it. Straight.
That's sick. Look at that.
You guys ever play one of those sessions where a lot of interesting things happen, but then at the end of it, you're like, wow, that was kind of a waste of time? Well, that was tonight's session. Pretty much down $100. Feels like a little bit of a waste of time, but the good part about poker is it's not about the results, it's about the friends you make along the way. And tonight, I feel like I made a lot of friends. And as a wise poker player once told me, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but in the long run, everybody pretty much breaks even. So tonight for us was the long run, I guess. Have a gentle day.